Amnesia: The Dark Descent has truly gained a reputation as one of the best survival horror video games of all time, and it soon branched out into an entire universe brimming with all kinds of strange creatures, developed by Frictional Games. The Amnesia franchise has an enriched story, and the Otherworld especially caught the player's eyes with its dark secrets and monstrous creatures. Today we shall explore the Beast, the Ghoul, Empress Tiana, and some more magnificent entities that walk the landscapes of the Otherworld, and tell you all about them. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. What is the nature and significance of the Otherworld in Amnesia? Also known as the Dark World, the Otherworld was known as the homeworld of Empress Tiana and Alexander of Brennenburg. Initially, the kingdom was ruled by Maria Stoneheart, and then Empress Atua before Tiana inherited the throne, around the 4th century AD. While the Otherworld's origins are shrouded in mystery, it played a huge role in the Dark Descent, and it was eventually destroyed around 1839 AD. It was mostly populated by humanoid beings with blue skin, but the kingdom was also home to some strange creatures, especially in Tihana's empire. These lands were also home to a whole lot of magic and alchemy, and they had control over advanced technology. In this way, the Otherworld held great importance in Amnesia, and they were celebrated for their technological advancements, unique forms of transportation and teleportation, and so on. Let us now explore some of the most popular entities that stood out in the Otherworld. Otherworldly entities. Beast. To begin with, we have the Beast, aka the Stalker, who was first introduced as the primary antagonist in Amnesia: The Bunker. The Beast's origins can be traced back to Augustin Lambert, a French soldier who consumed some tainted water in an unfortunate turn of events, and soon ended up transforming into a monster. While he was essentially a mutated harvester, he gained quite a reputation as a standout member of his species, and he had enhanced resistance against conventional weapons and firearms. He did resemble the harvesters to a great extent, but at the same time, he had some individualistic features such as a visible rib cage, deformed muscles, and a couple of bayonets that had impaled his torso. His appearance can be best likened to a ghoul, and it had hollow eye sockets and teeth that tore through his cheeks and throat. He was characterized by his sadistic and hostile personality, and he especially had a deep-rooted hatred toward human beings. The Beast didn't shy away from killing any humans in his path, and he was quite agile when it came to striking down his prey, despite his heavy physique. He showed up at several different points during the game and had a dynamic fighting style that evolved depending on his opponent's reaction. He had proved himself to be an extremely aggressive being, and he also displayed higher levels of intelligence than his other counterparts. However, he did have a couple weaknesses, and he was especially vulnerable to auditory and visual stimuli. Ghoul. Also known as Harvesters, ghouls were scattered across Amnesia Rebirth and Amnesia: The Bunker, and they were notorious for sneaking up on players at any given chance. They typically targeted Tazi Trianon, and these characters were designed to extract pain and suffering from human beings. While their exact origins remain unclear, alchemists stumbled upon a transformation liquid that would turn humans, as well as other mammals, into ghouls. This transformation took place in several stages, beginning from the latent stage, where they gained regenerative abilities. Over time, they progressed to the corruption stage, wherein black veins would prominently grow around their eyes and take over their vision. As the humans started experiencing negative emotions, this liquid would creep its way into their conscious mind through these black veins and cause several episodes of amnesia and blackouts. Soon enough, their skin would tear off and expose flesh, while their teeth would grow sharp and rip through their lips. In the final stage, the Harvesters developed an insatiable hunger that drove them toward killing humans, and they lost all sense of humanity and control over their actions. They also turned incredibly slender during the transformation process, and were known for crawling through tight tunnels and burrows. Harvesters had immense durability and strength despite their lanky posture, and they also gained near-immortal status due to their impressive regenerative abilities. They were intelligent beings who could make sense of their opponent's attacks and come up with strategies to dodge them, and they seemingly went training in the hunting grounds before they were set free in the Otherworld. The Shadow. Introduced as the mysterious guardian of the orbs, the Shadow was dedicated to protecting the orbs and hunting down anyone who tried to violate them. It was the overarching antagonist in the Amnesia series, and its origins are shrouded in mystery. Typically, the Shadow is a gigantic invisible who often leaves behind a fleshy organic residue whenever it wades through the room. Daniel once managed to perceive the Shadow in all its glory and described it as a glowing sphere of red mist. Anyone who came in contact with it experienced great mental anguish, and the Shadow also had some torturous ways of tearing its victim's entire body apart and even splitting their heads open. However, it reserved these punishments only for those who tried to abuse the power of the orbs, except for a Dutch occultist named Johan Veyer, who figured out a way to wield an orb without getting in trouble with the Shadow. This entity played a huge role in Amnesia: The Dark Descent, wherein it interfered with Daniel's attempts to travel to Brennenburg Castle. Alexander of Brennenburg, voiced by the late Sam Mowry. Alexander of Brennenburg was an otherworldly entity disguised as a Prussian baron after being banished from the otherworld. He was a supernatural entity with telepathic abilities, and he was known for torturing human beings and extracting their vitae over the years. While he presented himself as an aristocrat and a benevolent being, Alexander had a notorious reputation for using all kinds of twisted methods to torture his victims, and he had a warped perception of morals. Even though his torture methods were abhorrent by all moral and ethical standards, Alexander maintained that he was a victim of his situation, and that he was just trying to find his way back to his home. Despite his obsession with torturing humans, Alexander was considered to be quite a genius, and Daniel even described him as a true Renaissance man. He was skilled in the sciences as well as arcane magic, and he dedicated his life to the pursuit of knowledge. Alexander was particularly obsessed with understanding the secrets of life and their relation to the cosmic energy of vitae, and he eventually revealed that he was determined to return to his great love in the otherworld, even if it meant that he would have to commit all forms of atrocities. Gatherers. Introduced as Alexander von Brennenburg's loyal servants, the Gatherers could be classified into the Grunt and the Brute. They were typically spotted in Amnesia: The Dark Descent, where they lurked in different corners of Brennenburg Castle and often attacked Daniel. While some fans believed that the Gatherers were lost spirits or ghosts of the 30-Year War, it was soon revealed that Baron Alexander created them on his own. They appeared in the form of humanoid figures with inhuman features, such as poorly attached teeth or eyes, and they walked with a limp. Gatherers also notably had a strong odor with notes of spiced wine, clove, and sage, and they typically wore long cloaks to disguise themselves. However, Gatherers posed a real threat when one encountered them in storage or the guest room, and the only way to dodge them was by hiding in a corner until they moved to a new location. The Gatherers were extremely loyal to Alexander of Brennenburg, and immediately stopped attacking Daniel when he ordered them. Moreover, Alexander would often use them to locate Daniel, or run menial tasks for him, and Daniel often heard him furiously command them around. Gatherers did not sneak around like most monsters, and they would immediately warn their victims of their presence by emitting an audible growl. They were extremely lazy in their investigations, and they would often get bored or give up on looking for Daniel in the midst of a terrorizing situation. Gatherers were also not quite intelligent, and often paid no attention to things right in front of them. These creatures are typically categorized as servant grunt or servant brutes, wherein grunt is known to be a weaker common variant, while the rare brutes can strike down any opponent in a single blow. Empress Tiana. Also introduced as the Great Mother, Empress Tiana had attained godlike status in the Otherworld. Even though she appears as the main antagonist of Amnesia Rebirth, she inherited the throne from her mother, Empress Atua, and was born with a degenerative illness that degraded her bones with time. While she was growing up, Empress Atua instructed her team of alchemists to find a cure for Tihana's illness, and keep her alive even though she was slowly dying from the inside out. Atua was determined to see Tihana inherit the throne, and a bunch of alchemists then performed a spinal repair surgery, where they injected some of the vitae's restorative properties to heal her. Moreover, Atua seemingly donated some of her organs to ensure Tihana's survival, even if it meant that she would have to sacrifice her own life. While Tihana eventually grew stronger and established herself as the 7th ruler of the dynasty, the vitae in her body had caused her to take the appearance of a mutated humanoid, but it was still possible to recognize her. After she even took up the orb from her mother's lifeless brow and seemingly inspired the kingdom to grow, she appeared in the form of a ghostly blue-skinned woman. Under her reign, the Otherworld flourished and had numerous inventions and innovations. But she did have her fair share of political troubles, with Septarch Iliander and the Enkindled Fortress. However, her decision to mass extract vitae finally caused some unrest in her kingdom, and some rebels even came together to form a group and kill her. They went as far as to infect the vitae extraction system with some of the Shadow's red flesh, a process that infected a quarter of the system and led to the Great Fate's collapse. Eventually, Tihana failed to bring these rebels under control, which led to a series of events that triggered her kingdom's collapse. As most of her citizens died, Tihana somehow managed to survive and spent a lot of her time offering aid to human travelers, until the events of Amnesia Rebirth. In this series, Tihana offered accommodation to Cassandra's crew, and then tried to strike a deal with them to acquire Tazi's unborn child. While Tazi refused at first, Tihana manipulated them into staying back in her kingdom and eventually begged Tazi to let her have a chance to be a mother, and players were given the chance to make this decision for her as the game came to an end. Wraith. Introduced as the second antagonists of Amnesia Rebirth, Wraiths were known as the unquiet ghosts of the alchemists. These alchemists were supposedly corrupted by the Shadow's effect on their Ankari stones, which turned them into Wraiths. Even though they primarily appear in Amnesia Rebirth, players have spotted these ghostly figures in Amnesia the Bunker as well. While players cannot interact with these characters, Wraiths were known to be more dangerous than the ghouls, as they were unpredictable creatures who often snuck up on their victims. They appeared in the form of gray monsters with tattered robes that had seemingly melted into their skins. They held glowing stones that enabled them to interact with other living beings, and they also had the ability to fly around the otherworld. While they used to be sapient beings, they lost their sense of individuality and intellect over the years and turned into mindless characters who dedicated their lives toward hunting down and torturing everyone in their path. They took great pleasure in inducing fear in the minds of humans. Vitae torture victims or even harvesters, and they could also bring them under their control with the help of their Ankari stones. By torturing their victims, they would essentially enhance their fear, which would increase the quantity of the Vitae extracted from Empress Tiana's Imperium. They typically floated around the game in search of victims, and they could even teleport from one place to another and emit lights from their Ankari stones to locate their victims. While players could sometimes dodge these creatures, looking directly into the lights of their stones would compel them to look at the Wraith. In these instances, the Wraith would teleport closer to the victim and subdue them before they have a chance to escape. Marvelous verdict. And with that, we've explored pretty much every otherworldly entity in the Amnesia franchise, from terrorizing entities such as Empress Tiana and Wraith, to some other creatures such as Gatherers and the Shadow. We hope you enjoyed exploring them with us, and do share your favorite ones in the comments below. And if you liked our content, don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye bye!